Pupusas in El Salvador, definitely a nighttime and a dinner thing.
Yes.
For
Also
sure.
breakfast. Apparently it's loud at breakfast as well.
Okay, so just not at the middle of the day.
Not lunch.
Go find something else for lunch because you can't eat a pupusa.
Yeah.
You're listening to Ticket to Anywhere, an award-winning travel essential podcast hosted by Leah and Trizzy, two Asian American women with 23 years of combined travel experience.
We are your first stop to infinite travel, giving you the gear, tools, and tips for a more travel-filled life. My cousins joined me last minute. They literally told me Christmas Day. They're like, hey, we're going to fly to El Salvador with you tomorrow, like on standby. I was like, what? No, it was amazing. It was literally the best surprise I could ask for. But they, you know, we spent probably 48 hours, a little more than that, in San Salvador. And I knew they were only going to be in El Salvador in general for like 6 days. So I was like, let's do a day trip to Suchitoto. So I took...
And did you jump on the bus?
Oh, yeah. I gave them the full experience. I'm talking like I'm from El Salvador. But like, you know, chicken bus, like buying fruits, like they were all like, let's take an Uber everywhere. I was like, no, you guys, we're gonna take the local bus.
The $1 bus?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys are gonna love it. We're gonna get like cheap fruits and peanuts and snacks, and it's gonna be awesome and inexpensive. And yeah, so we did like a half-day trip there, and then I went back a week later on my own and spent 2 nights.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I
went. Nice. Okay,
so I went
that's
twice.
great. Okay.
Which is like unheard of, I feel like, in 3 weeks there.
Well, I went 2 nights as well because I had to stay. I had an extra day there because I went and booked the Civil War tour, but it gets booked out quite quickly with Daniel at the Eco Tours, Suchitoto Eco Tours. So when I messaged, he's like, well, I've got space on the Thursday morning. But I was like, but I'm leaving that morning. But I said yes because I want to do it. So that day was literally get up, pack, breakfast, leave a bag there, do this whole tour in the morning, really hot and sweaty, like waterfalls, get my bag, jump on the local bus straight away, and then walk to my hotel. It was a long day. Walk to my hotel in San Salvador and stay a night and then go next morning. But yeah, I think 2 nights is pretty good in Suchitoto.
It was like the perfect
there's enough
reset.
To do.
Yeah, I felt like.
Yes.
Very much like a slow, just a calm 2 days.
Yes.
Which I loved and appreciate in my maturing years. I'm not that old, you guys. Sometimes it just feels like...
Well, the G Adventures tour that I joined for the Civil War tour is for the youngsters, so youngsters go there as well.
G Adventures tour?
Yeah, I literally joined a group of 20, like that morning, just hopped on.
And let me guess, but a lot of those people are in town just for the day, huh?
I think they arrived like midday the day before, so yeah, not even a day. Yeah. But do you know what's interesting on that tour? I was really into it because I love like the Civil War history, and you get to meet a local this guy's called Nelson, and he was on the guerrilla forces fighting the government. And Daniel, who runs the tour, he'll translate. But I'm like, I've got like 10 questions I want to ask him. But when I was looking around at the tour group, the youngsters, right, the early 20s mostly, they just weren't that interested. And I felt that's a bit of a shame.
It's
yeah, they're
wasted,
just like sitting there,
like lost on them.
Yeah,
huh?
like zoning out. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Like they're kind of not really like paying attention. And I felt that's quite a shame. But I had like 3 questions which I asked in broken Spanish. But then, yeah, I wanted to stay there all day and talk to them. But obviously, after half an hour, it's time to hike up to the viewpoints and stuff. But I felt like I was just scanning the area. I was like, they weren't really invested in it as much as I was. But maybe that's because of age.
I feel like you kind of get that on every tour, though. Like my favorite thing's a coffee tour, and I don't know, can't tell you how many times I do this in any country I go to, and then like even wine tours, and people don't care. You know, it's sad. I'm like, this is the second most traded commodity in the world, coffee, and you guys are just tastes great. You know, I don't know. Sadly, I think those kinds of people are on every tour. But I'm glad you were engaging and asking questions. I'm sure they loved that.
Well, I was like, I need to try and ask it in Spanish. I know Daniel can speak really good English, the guy who runs the tour. So I'm like, I can get away with it. Yeah, I can just like give it a go. Yeah, great guy. Interesting stories about the Civil War.
Oh my God, I bet. I couldn't get onto it on time because you did send me the link and told
Yes.
me that he books out quickly. But yeah, I kind of had a different plan for Suchitoto. I just wanted to wander around, see all the main sites and just take my time because I'd been go for actually almost 2 weeks at that point.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great place to walk around there, isn't it? Like the
100%.
cobbled streets, colourful houses, the little cathedral in the square, the little big cathedral.
No traffic.
And the lake. Yeah, no traffic.
Did you go down? I had heard that you can take, what are they called? Like a lancha boat across to like San Fernando, which is a tiny little town. But it's cool because the guy that drives the boat, he basically waits for the boat to fill up. So there's no schedule. And I was like, I don't know if I have time. Even though I said I wanted a slow 2 days, I still had like a list of things I wanted to see.
Yes.
I'm like,
same.
I don't know if I have time to just wait around. Like, what if we're waiting for an hour and a half to like catch?
I didn't really
this boat?
entertain the boat. Yeah, I walked down there
Oh, you did?
to go and see the view. Yeah, and then sort of hung out at the park and the restaurant area, and like read my book with the lake view in front. That's what I did.
Nice. I should have gone down, but I was definitely watching it from all the viewpoints, the miradors at the top. I basically restaurant hopped.
It's not bad. yeah, because they got every restaurant's got a view.
That was my goal,
What a place.
was to be there in like have the view the entire time. Basically, anytime I wanted to look like at the lake, I'm like, I need to be like facing it. And my cousins that joined me, they're like, I call them like they're my down. So is my cousin is the guy, his wife is married into our family. Basically, I just call them both my cousins because it's easier. And she's married into the family now, so she's family. But even the coolest thing, like I always say, I flew to Bali to celebrate their wedding a couple years ago. And they're just down. They're like always traveling. They're like living this full life all over the world. And when it got dark, it gets dark quite early. I was like, oh, we can't really see the view anymore. Like, is it worth it sitting at a restaurant, like, with a view? And, like, I don't know, this warms my heart. My cousin was like, well, yeah, because, like, what if there's something in the dark, like some lights flash? Like, what if there's something cool that just, like, pops up and we don't want to miss it? So we literally sat in the dark at a restaurant, like, facing the dark lake. And I was like, this is the kind of people I love that are just, like, down because something might happen, But most people would be like, we can't see anything. Like, what's the point of sitting here? I'm like, no, I want to be with the people who are like, the lake is dark, but we don't want to miss anything, so we're going to face it anyway.
Yeah. Where'd you go for that? Because I went to Casa 1800.
Yes. Oh, my God. That place. Did you try what was it, horchata? There was like an horchata latte there.
Oh, no, I didn't try that, no. I had lunch and just normal coffee, like Americano, but the views are crazy, aren't they?
I went to pretty much every single restaurant along that row, and like, there's a hotel at the end as well, that I went to, and yeah, I kind of just broke up my day. I was like, oh, I'll have a coffee here, I'll have a lunch beer here, I'll have a mid-afternoon coffee here, I'll have a nighttime.
What a dream! It's a dream lifestyle, isn't it?
100%. I'm like, let's pop in here. I've noticed I've done this a lot in just random trips. I'm like, if I want to see a place, I'm like, make an excuse to grab a coffee or a beer. I'm like, just one beer. Let's experience the place for like an hour.
Great way to do it.
Restaurante Vista Hermoso. Actually, that place didn't sell beer. They only sold wine. I've never heard of that
trendy
in a Latin country. I was like, what kind of place is this?
I only saw that in a TV show. I didn't realise it's real life. Did you go to Alejandro Cotto's house?
I did. Did you?
And the view at the back of the garden?
Wait, with the snake walkway?
Yeah, it sort of walks all the way down, right? And you get to the like
cool.
little platform bit.
I literally went
what a
I
view.
left like mid-morning on a Saturday. And that was my Saturday morning plan. I was like, okay, they open at 9:30. I'm going to be there at like 9:30, 10. And take my time. I probably spent like an hour in there, much longer than I thought it would.
Yeah. The view's incredible, isn't it?
Oh, it was stunning. I didn't realize it went so far back.
Yeah, I didn't realise either. I thought, oh, what's down there? I'll go have a look. And then it just kept going.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
snakes down and then that platform. There's no one there when I was there, so I like got my camera set up. I was like walking past the camera and
I love that. That's the same. It was
cool.
Saturday morning and no one there yet, but I don't know if people just come later in the day, because it was quite early. But Yeah, they charge. Alexander Cotto was he filmmaker, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. Filmmaker, beautiful house on the edge of Suchitoto, and they charge an entry. Now his house is turned into a museum. They charge an entry fee. I think it was
Yeah.
$1 for locals and $3 for foreigners, but I was happy to pay it because it preserves
Yeah.
the beautiful building. But all I could think of, I'm an event manager, so all I could think of was like, think of the events you could have here.
Yeah, I know.
Think of the weddings and the parties you could have here.
The wine party at the back.
Oh, yeah.
I felt like Suchitoto as a whole, there was like literally no one there. That's what I felt
Yeah.
like. I was on my own.
100%.
Yeah, so I stayed in, the hotel was called Hotel E Cafe X Marti, which is next to X Canal Cafe,
Wait.
which has got unbelievable coffee.
Wait, I think we stayed in the same exact place.
It's on like a corner.
It's the corner, and you walk through the cafe.
It's got the ATMs.
Yes,
got
I stayed.
Yes,
That's
that's
where
what I
I
said.
stayed.
Yeah.
Oh my god! And then it's almost
Yeah.
like speakeasy because they block half the door with the refrigerator.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Wait, I loved it.
Probably one of my favourite, accommodations on the tour, actually,
it was
in El
so
Salvador.
cool,
Yeah.
and it was so calm.
Good breakfast.
I loved it. The ATMs were so funny. I was like, this is so random, but like, cool. I'll pull money out too.
Yeah. It's like a top tip of mine for El Salvador, Suchitoto. I think people need to go.
I do. I was telling everybody about it.
Yeah.
I was like,
Great little place.
so many people hadn't heard of it because everyone, I mean, I was staying at hostels for half the time, of course. So you're meeting
Yes,
people on the Gringo Trail, right?
Yeah.
And they're on their like 8-month journey through Central America, you know?
Yes. Most of them are, aren't they? Yeah.
They are. And they're like, Suchitoto, I've never heard of this place. I'm like, well, you
Yeah.
wouldn't because you're just going to do the Santa Ana volcano and El Tunco.
Yeah.
But
It's a travesty, really. Yeah. People just didn't stay that long. They just like carried on.
yeah. No, it was such a I'm glad I decided to do and go back because I remember when I went the first time, I was like, this place is lovely. But it took us, I mean, we only spent like 5 hours there the first time because we left so late in the afternoon. That's why I was like, you know what? I'm going to come back in a few weeks, like without my cousins and stay for a couple nights.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's easy to get to from San Salvador.
Oh, yeah.
$1 bus.
Yep.
Dream. We should probably go back to San Salvador. 'Cause you're going to arrive there, aren't you? If you listen to this.
Let's do it.
What do you make of San Salvador as a city? I quite liked it.
Yeah.
As a capital city.
Yeah.
Very safe, clean. Done a few walking tours. Lots to see and do, like the palace and the library and the cathedrals and the parks. And I felt overall a really nice vibe.
That's good. Yeah. I felt the same. I felt I was a little spoiled because I stayed in a really nice neighborhood where like they had all the corporate offices and whatnot. So my first impressions were like, wow, like, I mean, every city has its, different neighborhoods, but I stayed in a really nice part of the city, and so did my cousins. We didn't stay at the same hotel because they paid like $200 a night for a Hyatt, and I'm like, I can't do that.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
I was between both neighborhoods, and they were both really nice. But yeah, when we did go downtown to the library and the Centro Histórico, like, it was super cool. This is what happens when I'm traveling with others who don't travel like me. I feel like you and I would be the same. My cousins are like very much Uber everywhere. So I feel like when I landed, I had a different experience because we Ubered everywhere. We
Wow.
didn't really walk
Yeah.
many places. So we're a little spoiled in that sense. We didn't even take the public bus unless it, out to Suchitoto we did. Okay, and you know why I felt like I didn't spend enough time there, James, is because both days that we were there, we actually left town.
Oh, to go and see some other stuff.
Yeah,
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, day trips. Okay.
we did. And so we'd come back at night and like try restaurants. But even the Centro Histórico and the library and what was it called? The National Palace, I think.
Yeah.
We saw that
Yeah.
all at night. We saw it all on our first night, Friday night.
It's crazy at night, isn't it?
Yeah,
The
well-
lights and stuff. It's really nice.
Yeah, and we were there during it was like December 28th, so we were there during Christmas time.
Oh, wow.
It was
Yeah.
beautiful. They had this huge concert, like everyone out in the square partying and having fun. Like, I felt like if it's like that during Christmas, I'm sure it's still just as lively throughout the rest of the year.
Well, I was there just a month before, maybe 6 weeks, and it was busy. Everyone was out on the street at night, even on a Sunday night.
When we went down to the square, so actually we were coming from Cadejo Brewing, and there's a bunch around the country. It's like the country's national craft beer. Did you hear about it while you were there? Cadejo? They like
a little bit, yeah.
They have it like on tap at the airport. We came from a different Cadejo near Zona Rosa, so we had like eaten and drank, and we're like, oh, let's go down to like Centro Histórico and like see what's down there. And so we ran into the concert, went through all like the cool lighting fixtures and whatnot, and then the National Palace, like we saw this huge line. I love it. We saw this huge line. We're like, well, let's get in the line. We don't know what it's for, but let's get in it. And then we found out it was because the National Palace does, they do tours like every 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So we paid, I think it was like $5 for foreigners to get
$5.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really cool and it was beautiful. So we spent our time doing that, and then we went and grabbed a drink on Basilico. But we didn't really go through the library because it was just so packed. The whole place.
Yeah, so there is a time and place to go. If you want a quiet time, it's Sunday during the day.
Yeah, everyone's at church.
Sunday morning is quiet.
Everyone's at church.
Yes.
That's why.
Sunday morning. Yeah.
That's literally when you went?
Yeah.
Oh, you timed that perfectly.
Yeah. Because I did go another time. It was like, there's queues to get in. I'm not doing this.
Oh, yeah. No, we 100%. We stood in a line that wrapped around the building like twice just to get into the library, then get up to the elevators were packed. The stairs were closed. And I'm like, are we ever going to get up there? Like, the place closes at 10:30. So, but we made it.
Yeah. But it is open all night, 24/7.
Oh, yes, the library is.
No, it's a cool thing to see. It's brand new. And it's got great views at the top. If you go to, I think, 6th or the 7th floor, they've got some viewpoints up there.
Where else did you go in San Salvador?
All around the city centre. Yeah. I think it covered all the major attractions. Yeah. And some markets, actually. Went to the market square where previously there was gangs, and now it's like a market, and it's now fairly safe because there's like security guards there and stuff.
Yeah.
So I got some history about that, which is pretty cool. And I booked 2 walking tours with people who are different ages because I wanted to get different perspectives. So I had Dave, who came, they both come onto the podcast as well, so that's pretty cool. But Dave's in his mid-40s to late 40s, so he has a bit of history about the Civil War as well. But Carlos is our age, like early to mid-30s, and he just really has the gang experience.
Yeah.
So I thought I wanted to hear different perspectives on that. So they come on the podcast and talked for half an hour, 45 minutes.
That's amazing.
Pretty cool.
We'll, for Ticket to Anywhere, we'll drop your link to that podcast there.
Yeah, but if people want to know from a local perspective what to check out and how it is,
100%.
there's good conversation there, yeah. And I think the walking tours are great. They're both different, but they gave you some good information and different areas of the city as well.
Yeah, well, I didn't take any walking tours. I think when I'm with people, family, friends from back home, we just like whatever comes to mind. It's such a different experience for me. Like, I kind of go with what they want to do. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
And we got out of town and we went on we tried to go to one of the famous rainbow slides. Have you heard of this?
Oh, yeah. I didn't really entertain it, but I've heard about it, yeah.
It was literally a 5-minute drive outside of town on the map. It looks like it's going to take you an hour, but it's literally a 5-minute, and we Ubered, of course. So it was like
it is cheap to Uber.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very inexpensive, and that's like I was telling James, wrote in my notes. I'm like, it's inexpensive to get Ubers everywhere. I think our Uber outside of town to Picnic Steakhouse, where one of the famous rainbow slides was $6 there and back. Like, so $12 US.
Cheap.
But man, the look of disappointment when we decided to go to Picnic Steakhouse and they turned it into a winter wonderland. So the slide was white. And I'm like, I'm paying $5 US to go down a white slide. I'm like, how's this going to look on social media? Okay. We did go down it. It just wasn't a rainbow slide. But I knew there was another one in the country. So I decided to save that for another time. But yeah, we spent half a day there, and they had some pretty cool views of the city. And that was on our way out of town. So that and Sushi Toto are pretty much the only 2 times we left while we were in San Salvador. But yeah, we didn't do as much walking around town as you did, unfortunately. Different experience.
Nah, that's good. I just like to walk around and get a feel for the place, hear the sounds, see how busy it is, hear the music as well.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, I have a funny story. Okay, so I mean, people listening to your podcast, Winging It, will know, they have a lot of background on El Salvador already, and people kind of sadly have their preconceived notions, but I think a lot of the history summed up is the reason El Salvador travel is so popular these days, and I'm saying this for my podcast when we put it on here, is that there was a president that was reelected in, I think, March 2023. And in the past, 4 or 5 years, he's really cleaned up the country, putting almost 70,000 gang members behind bars, meaning people who fled El Salvador finally feel safe coming back to their home country, especially a lot of the Salvadorans that came to the United States and Canada.
Yeah.
They're going back home, right? And these gang members, a lot of them are put behind bars. I mean, at the cost of what is a whole different story, because I don't think they're IDing a lot of these people, which is really unfortunate. So
tattoos, basically.
Tattoos, essentially. But if you have a non-gang related tattoo,
you
could get
a problem.
Caught in the mix, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyways, people think, especially San Salvador, the streets are kind of and sometimes you just get a vibe for a place and you're like, I don't know if we should be doing this. So on our Uber, on the way to downtown, it got more rambunctious, right? The streets. It's just a lot livelier. Mm-hmm. We saw different groups of people out in the crowd, but we had just come from Cadejo. Me and my cousin, we had drank a flight of beer there. And so when we got in the car to take the Uber downtown, we both knocked out sleeping, and our windows were open. So my cousin's wife was the only one awake. She doesn't speak a lick of Spanish. Even her pronunciation, we're like, we'll help you, don't worry. But she was wide awake, and she's looking at her husband and me being like, these two are passed out snoring. I was in the front seat, my window fully down. The Uber driver didn't care. My cousin's window fully down. My phone was in my lap too. And not that there's a ton of petty crime, but when you're traveling, you have to think of your belongings anyway.
Sure.
But we rode and we were in traffic, so the traffic was slow, and there's just tons of people moving around the car. And I was just like, my phone could have been stolen at any time. And I'm sitting here literally snoring out the window. And my cousin's wife wanted to slap us both and be like, wake up, watch your belongings. And I'm like, anyone could have literally reached in and just grabbed my purse, grabbed my phone. More of the story, don't be like me. Maybe if you drink a flight, try to stay awake on your Uber ride downtown, or close your windows or something. But that was a little scary because I woke up and I'm like, where are we?
But that proves how safe it is.
100%.
I felt incredibly safe, but I know obviously I am a white male who speaks English, but and I'm at the top of privilege. But honestly, when I made it a point to walk solo through the streets. Mm-hmm. I just want to get a feel. If I feel a bit hairy, okay, I'll learn my lesson. I didn't feel anything at all. People leave you alone. It's clean streets. Mm-hmm. It seems to be everyone's just getting on with their day. And when I got to the walking tours, they kind of reassured us that this is now a very safe country 100%. At the minute, because Bukele has imprisoned 70,000 prisoners and they can't escape. Because have you heard about the prison? They're just in an area north of the country. There's a 3 kilometer. There's several.
Oh, okay. There's several.
And
okay.
Yeah. And they've got a 3 kilometer exclusion zone around it where you can't get internet signal. Oh. And they get very basic treatment. I think the joke is they get concrete and pupusas. That's what they get. So there's no chance of no trial because he's bypassed that law. So it's a national security thing where they just have to go straight in prison. That's it, done. Mm-hmm. So actually, that is another conversation. But when you speak to local people, they're like, this is great because we now feel safe for the first time in decades.
Yep.
And arguably one of the safest countries, and especially San Salvador, one of the safest capital cities you might find in Central and South America, especially at night.
Yeah. That's what I've heard. Actually, this was a point I wanted to remember to bring up. So my cousins and I, we didn't really ask, actually. We just didn't think of it. And I think I talked to some other hostel goers about it, but we were wondering why, and we can get more into this when we get into Santa Ana. At night, though, you notice there's not really like a huge night culture in a lot of parts of the country. And we were like, is that because,
True.
yeah. And this could be traced back to like, okay, gang members more active at night, you know? So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, most people tried to be in their homes when it got dark. So you
Yeah.
notice there's like not a ton of night culture, like bars and things that are open late. Like a lot of the bars and restaurants we went to closed at like 9 or 10 p.m. I live in a suburb of Los Angeles. That's what time things close here. So I was a little surprised because I think like anywhere in Latin America is pretty much known for like their nighttime culture. It doesn't, I'm not talking like clubs, just like being
No,
awake.
just
Yeah.
outdoors. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wonder if it stemmed from that, you know, people being used to, and I know times are changing because now we're almost 2 years past the re-election of the president, and the country's felt safe for almost 2 years, maybe a little bit longer now. The nightlife will probably grow, probably take a while to grow. But
Yeah.
when we were there, it wasn't too active in a lot of, especially the smaller towns, which I get. But
Yeah. And Bukele was the mayor of San Salvador before presidency. So I think San Salvador residents probably have a bit more trust that it is safe because they probably experienced him a bit longer. Like he's cleaned up the whole city.
yeah.
And maybe people out in the other cities and suburbs outside of that probably don't feel as convinced or safe, maybe. But it might take a bit of time. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
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 But obviously, El Tunco, which I think we'll come to next, does have a party scene. But that's because previously it was privately secured by security, even in the bad days.
Really? I didn't know
Yes,
this.
because we had someone in our walking tour in Santa Ana. She lived in El Salvador for 10 years when all the gangs was happening. And she was saying basically El Tunco and El Zonte is an exclusive zone and you're secured because they have private security, but you can't really go anywhere else in the country.
Oh, okay.
So
what a rough life just
it's
by
probably
the
got a
beach
history
the whole
of-
time.
I know. Someone's got to do it.
Were they like paying the gangs off? I'm curious.
Yeah, I think there's agreement. Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder why.
So any expats or tourists went there because it's the only place you could go to previously.
That's why El Tunco looks like the next Canggu or Cancun.
Oh, really?
I just felt like, have you been to Bali?
Yep. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. I just felt like I was making a joke. I'm like, El Tunco wants to be Canggu so bad. Like, it's
Yeah.
getting there. I'm sure it'll. You know, El Tunco is known as Surf City, El Salvador. For those that are just hearing the word El Tunco for the first time, I was not there. I don't think James. We were not there. James was there in November. I was there December, January. And it's not the season for surf. I think that's more like May, June, July. So it was quiet
Oh, okay.
when we were there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on that. I did see a few surfers, but I thought El Zonte was so quiet that there's no one on the beach.
Yeah.
I couldn't really work out why.
El Zonte is, and it's different. I think it's much quieter than El Tunco too. El Tunco is kind of like, they have, you know, some loud bars and restaurants, some beach clubs that I did go to.
Yeah. Of course.
How is it? So El Zonte.
Yeah, there's two bits of El Zonte. There's a river that goes through the middle of it,
Oh,
and one side is Bitcoin Beach, and one side is called the Surf Beach. So if you want a bit of, I won't say action, but maybe some bars and restaurants, stay on the Surf Beach side. But if you want quiet time, more expensive property, then Bitcoin Beach is the place to stay. I think the only
I'm
hostel is on the Surf Beach side.
Bitcoin Beach. Stop.
I know, yeah. But honestly, what a beach that is. Because there's a cave at the end that you can walk through.
Uh-huh.
So if you go at low tide, walk down the beach, and you'll see this like cave in the rock formation is incredible. And that goes through to another beach, and that's really more exclusive. And there's no one there. So at low tide, 8:30 in the morning, whatever it is, I
Yep.
walked down there, and there was just no one there, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
This is super cool. I'm
like-
looking at it right now. Cueva.
It's called Cueva
Yep.
El Zonte. Yeah.
This is super cool. Oh,
So in high tide, that gap in the rock is full of water,
Wow.
obviously. So you need to be careful. Don't get caught up in the high
Yeah.
tide because you won't get out. But But yeah, that's a pretty incredible thing to go and see in El Zonte. And it's a 10-minute walk from the Surf Beach area. You go up to the road, across the bridge of the river, then back into Bitcoin Beach. I felt Bitcoin Beach was more local.
Yeah.
Actually.
That's nice.
Some markets there and stuff.
Yep.
Local markets. Yeah.
So when you cross through the cave, was the beach on the other side private?
It almost felt private, but you are allowed to go on it.
Okay.
And the properties are really big, like above it. So I felt like they're like rich people's houses or really expensive Airbnbs.
Did you see those
No
in
hotels.
El Tunco too? If you look to if you're facing the water and you look to the left, massive mansions like cliffside.
Yeah. Yeah, left and right in El Zonte, yeah. Yeah.
Wild.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I was like, who lives
Expensive
here?
place, El Zonte, though. Expensive restaurants. Yeah.
Yep. I paid, oh my gosh, this is going to hurt. I paid $4 for a beer, like a local national beer at a beach club in El Tunco. I was like, this hurts because anywhere else I could have gotten at least 3 beers for this price.
Yes.
But I did it for the sunset. I had a front row view. You know, sunset time in these beach towns, everyone stops and just like faces the sunset.
It's pretty incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
the only problem I had is I was caught up in Storm Sara. So I had torrential rain for the afternoons. So I was only out in the early morning to lunchtime, and then the rain came.
On these beach, when you were at the beach?
Yeah.
No.
Like proper rain. Like you couldn't go out in it unless you're in the sea.
Oh dang.
It's a bit of a shame.
Okay, so I caught every single sunset on the beach and shared it with you, James, because
thank you.
I went to
no sunsets.
It's like never miss a sunset when I'm there. I think that's why I love traveling. It's hard because rainy season for these tropical countries and those around the equator, it's still kind of, you know, there in November, right?
Yeah, the biggest lesson I learned is don't risk it. Don't go in November. Just go in December. Start there, or January, February, March.
Okay,
but...
this is why, and I've stated this on our podcast so many times. This is why I like traveling in January and February to the tropical countries, because it's like their dry season, quote unquote. And also, everyone traveled for the holidays too, and I'm like, I'm miss me with that crowdedness and mess. I'll go like after New Year's or after Christmas when everyone's like going home.
November's a risk. It'd be quieter, but you are susceptible to the rain.
Yeah, I did go.
And I was caught up with that in El Zonte and Santa Ana, actually.
Bummer. It was so cute because when we were at the beach club, you know, we talk about how it's like everyone loves and turns and faces the sunset, but even the employees, like, I'm like, they're sitting there taking photos and videos, and I'm like, you guys act like, you know, in my head I was like, they act like they've never seen the sunset, and they get this work view every day. And I just thought that was so sweet that they've seen probably 1 billion of these, and they still are sitting there taking photos and pictures. It was really cute.
What was the vibe of El Tunco? Because it's known as a bit of a party place, isn't it?
It is. But yeah, it felt like it's trying to be like a Cancun or Playa del Carmen or a Cabo or a Canggu. I hope it never gets as big as those places, because the boardwalk is quite small. The beach clubs and like beachside bars and restaurants are pretty expensive. Like I paid $4 US for one beer, when around the country it's usually $1.50.
Yeah.
So
Max.
So I thought it was cute though. I will say this is the hottest tip for anyone that plans to go to El Tunco. One of my favorite meals of all time is at Captain Cook in El Tunco, because it's like a cevicheria. So it's lots of raw fish, seafood, cooked seafood also. But I had fish tacos and I had poke there. I loved it so much I went twice in 2 days. But I am obsessed with this place. And it reminded me of one of my other favorite restaurants, Drift in El Nido in the Philippines. But it's the same, like super fresh seafood. But yeah, it just felt, you know, it was a lot more expensive. Felt pretty commercialized and lots of foreigners, lots of tourists. But I met, you know, a lot of locals that were on a holiday. It was really cute.
Yeah. Met some of them.
Yeah. Like I met one guy like in the ocean. He's like, do you need help taking photos? I was like, oh, sure. And he's like, yeah, I'm from La Libertad, which is 30-minute bus ride away. He's like, oh, I'm just here with my cousin for like a little weekend trip. So, yeah, I
There
hope
you
they
go.
never stop.
So I don't know how far they are between the two. Because the bus I got from San Salvador goes past El Tunco. So obviously I stayed on the bus, then flagged down my stop.
Yep. I would
Yeah,
love to
I
get
think
this.
I should have. If I had better weather, I probably would have stayed an extra day and gone to El Tunco, but I
Oh,
didn't have good weather, so I got out of there
what a
in the end.
bummer.
Yeah,
So you didn't do
yeah,
the
it's not good.
waterfalls, the Tamanike Fall. I didn't do Tamanike
Nope.
Falls, but yeah, that would have been dangerous if you went in
Yes.
the
So I read
weather.
about it, and I was like, no, not gonna do that.
Yeah. So, was it something that an Australian girl told me on one of the bus rides that, and this is super touristy, so I understand if people don't want to do this, but there's another Cadejo on the coast between El Tunco and El Zonte, and it's like, have you seen those swimming pools in Sydney that are kind of like built into the rock but like on the edge?
Yep.
Like the
Yeah.
pools, whatever they're called. They have those same ones at the Cadejo on the coast.
Oh
And
wow.
so I was like, wait,
Okay.
I have to see this. So I went on a Monday afternoon, biggest hack, go on a weekday in the middle of the day when everyone's like working and it's like an off, not a high tourist season, but I was like, there was no one there. And I wanted to support the business, so I bought a snack and a flight of beer, of course. But they have signs everywhere saying, "Oh, if you want to use the pool," because they had a swimming pool and the regular pools down at the bottom, like the natural pools. So I used
Yeah.
both. It was like an infinity pool, and there's signs that say, "Oh, you have to pay. It's like 25 US if you want to use a pool for a day." I just bought some beer and a snack, and I had access to both of the pools. Nobody there, but I thought this is so cool, and it's just like built into the bottom of the bar. So yeah, I took the
Huh.
bus
Good tip.
out there. Yeah, it's beautiful. I'll send you some photos.
Yeah.
But it was really
Yeah, because
cool.
the bus goes along the coast, doesn't it? So there's actually proper bus stops on that road. There's like a little shelter that you can sit in and wait for your bus, but you just need to flag it down. But yeah, you can dot around to those little towns.
Yeah,
I think it's like 5 or 6 along there, and probably check them all out as a little trip.
I
That'd be
met a
pretty
girl
cool.
that Ubered from El Tunco to Cadejo, but Uber is not like
Okay.
hugely available on the coast. So
No.
I was like, how did she
No,
get
true.
one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when I left, I had to go to Santa Ana next, right? Mm-hmm. And if you look at the geography, if people look at the map now, you'll see El Zonte. You think, oh, you just go left and go round.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, not possible. Had to go back to San Salvador, get an Uber to a different bus station, and then go to Santa Ana. But I think there is a way if you've got time, but I don't have time.
Okay. So I did the opposite route from you, where I went to San Salvador and then I went to Santa Ana. And then I went back.
That's what I did.
Oh, you did? Okay. But
Yeah, I had to go back the way I came into San Salvador, then go back out to Santa Ana.
Right.
But I'm thinking on the map, I think you can possibly get a shuttle that goes still along the coast away
you can.
from. Yeah, but I didn't know. I couldn't really find good information about it, so I didn't risk it.
Well, what I'm getting to is that when I was in Santa Ana and I was there for 4 days, so quite a long time, like 4.5 days.
Yeah,
But in the
yeah, 5 days for me.
Yeah. Oh, geez, just as long.
because of the rain.
Yeah. What a bummer. But in the hostel I was staying at, which was Casa Coco, super super cute. They had all this incredible information on their boards and in QR codes, and they had like not a direct route, but they had the exact directions on how to get from Santa Ana to El Tunco. And you did have to switch buses and switch routes in that one town that is a good Sonsonate.
Yes, Cincinnati. Yeah,
So there is a way. You probably
there is
just
a way.
could have backtracked, but I don't know that anyone on the coast would have that information.
No, I couldn't really find it that well. It doesn't mean that much because it's only 45 minutes to an hour to get to the bus station you need to in San Salvador. And what I found really nice with the locals is you're on a bus and I can't speak Spanish that well, but they're asking you where you're stopping or where you're going. So when I said, Santa Ana, like, oh, you have to get off here. So like they're flagging down the driver for me and making sure I get off at the right stop. And there's a few of us getting off there, so it was okay in the end. But if you don't flag down that bus station that goes to the west. I can't remember what it's called. A bus station.
The one in San Salvador,
Yeah, to get the bus to.
Santa Ana.
Yeah, it's called Occidente.
Yes.
Terminal buses de Occidente. My bus from El Tunco and El Zonte would carry on to the bus. I think it's 102 bus station, but that's too far. You need to get off early, so you need to make sure you flag down your driver to drop you off at the Occidente bus station.
Ah, okay, interesting. I Ubered straight from El Tunco to the airport. So, oh no, I took a ride through my hotel.
Yeah,
so I didn't
fair.
have to go back through San Salvador. From El Tunco, I just went straight. I didn't realize like how close it was to the airport. It's like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Actually, my cousins did that. They wanted to see the beach, so they left early New Year's Day. They were flying out basically like 3 a.m. on January 2nd, right? So in the middle of the night.
Yep.
But I was like, well, I'm staying in here in Santa Ana till January 2nd. And they're like, okay, we're going to leave you early on January 1st, and we're going to just go do like a day trip to the beach and bring all our luggage.
Fair. Why not?
Yeah, and then they're
it's
like,
quite close.
Yeah. Well, those that don't know, everywhere in El Salvador, or a lot of the great and popular places to go to are within like a 2.5 hour drive from each other.
Small country, innit?
Small country.
Yeah. Makes it nice to travel, actually.
100%.
And they're rebuilding the roads. You'll see a lot of roadworks, especially down from San Salvador to the coast. I think they're kind of building like a super road, I imagine.
Yeah.
Someone told me they're building a train line as well from the coast via the airport and up to Bitcoin City. Someone told me.
What in the world is Bitcoin City?
It's a new city they're going to build.
Shut up. Where is? Stop it.
That's what someone told me.
Where is it?
Some local. I don't know, but apparently it's going to be a high-speed train that does those three because they're quite popular, right? The capital city, airport, and the coastal area, El Tunco,
100%.
but also it goes to fourth place north, I think, to Bitcoin City, wherever that is.
Well,
But hey.
apparently Bukele said he literally was on TV and said, I want El Salvador to be like Singapore. And I was
Yes.
like, whoa, everyone's got a long way to go to be like Singapore. But I've never been. I've just heard many great things about Singapore. Mainly that
Singapore's great, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and they have the best airport literally in the world. But
Yep. Yeah,
those are some big ambitions, starting with Bitcoin City,
Yeah.
it sounds like.
Bitcoin City. High-speed rail.
This is
Going
so
for it.
cool. I definitely saw all the road works, improving the road.
Yeah, they're bad.
Good.
But the road between San Salvador and Santa Ana, $1 that bus, and it's a proper coach bus.
Yes.
That was a nice little ride because it's quite nice and comfortable and quite quick.
I remember you sent me the photo of it.
Big red bus.
Yep.
Tubo.
And surprise, surprise, we ended up taking a driver because I was still with my cousins at that point.
Oh,
So I
right.
didn't get to experience the bus.
Yeah.
But easy.
And what about Santa Ana?
Let's get into Santa Ana.
Yeah. I'll start with mine very quickly.
Yeah.
Because of the rain, I had to extend my stay because I wanted to see the Santa Ana volcano, and it worked out well. Because of the rain, it's going to be closed, and it was closed the first 2 days I was in Santa Ana. So I ended up staying 4 nights, 5 days, I think it was. Maybe 5 nights, I can't remember. 5 nights. And I stayed at Altea Hostel, and they very kindly let me book an extension to my trip outside of booking.com. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Which was a bit cheaper.
yeah.
And
What's the hostel? I'm so sorry. I'd like looking things
Altea. Altea. Very cheap.
Yes.
$13 a night, private room and bathroom.
Amazing.
No aircon, which was tough on some nights.
Yeah.
But effectively, my first day, I booked a walking tour with Fatima. I didn't have an umbrella. I was like, I won't need it. Went out, got absolutely soaked all day, and it didn't dry off until like 5 days later.
Oh my god.
So make sure you have an umbrella if you go in the rainy season.
Oh my
But we did a tour, like walk a tour around the city. It's great, but even it's too much for her. So we went to like a cafe called Cadec, which is a really nice cafe. And
With the
we
door,
bunkered down
where
in
you
there
have
for
to
2 hours
knock.
just trying to dry off. Yeah, knock on the door. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Do you know what's unfortunate? I was begging for aircon all the time because it's so hot. But the time I didn't want aircon was that day because I was soaking wet.
Oh.
So I wanted to dry off. So we went in there and it's cold. I'm like, I'm now shivering, wet, cold in Cadet Cafe. But hey, great coffee.
I bought a bag from there.
No doubt. Yeah, I should have bought a bag. Yeah. No, but the next day was a sort of wing it day because I planned to go to the volcano, but it's closed. So me and a couple of guys from the walking tour, we sort of wondered what to do in Santa Ana because it's quite a small place. So we found this abandoned art school and went and asked the guard if we can go in, and he's like, yeah, 20 minutes, but hurry up. If you go on Google and put in the old art school, Santa Ana, El Salvador, you're going to see this like derelict place. And there's conflicting information online.
100%.
Some people say you need a ticket. Some people say you can't go in there. But this day we just winged it. And we went to this art school and it's cordoned off by these cordons. Mm-hmm. So you can't go in. But there's a guard out there. Mm-hmm. So we thought, oh, do you know what? Our friend who lives in El Tunco, who's with us, she speaks great Spanish. She's going to ask him if we can go in. And he's quite a nice guy. And we like shook his hand. He's like, yeah, you can go in. You're not supposed to, but I'll give you 20 minutes. It's dangerous. There's like bits falling off. Just be careful. Oh. And we walked around and there's no one in there. And it's this eerie, weird place. Just like bits of columns everywhere, bits of brick. And it's like the vegetation's overgrowing, taking over. An eerie place, but awesome. Like it's very rare you get to see a place like that. Yeah.
I'm really jealous because I saved the art school for my last morning in Santa Ana.
Oh yeah.
Before I jetted off to Ruta de las Flores. And I went up to the guards speaking my Spanish because for those that don't know, I speak decent Spanish. I studied it at university. Yeah. But he literally told me, no, you need permission and a sign form from the government. And this was all in Spanish. And I was like, from where? And he's like, the Central Plaza, go get it. And I'm like, so it's literally like a TSA agent. They get to decide your fate for the day. He wasn't rude, but he straight up rejected me. And I'm so mad because the information I read online was totally like, yeah, super easy. You just get a ticket. And I'm like, bruh, why are you rejecting me?
Oh, wow. Sorry to hear about that.
He probably thought I was, I don't know, my Spanish was all right. Maybe he thought I was a local trying to get in and...
do you know what I think, actually, on reflection? I actually don't think it is that. I think it's because it's raining, right? And there wasn't many people about. Okay. Because it's like this Storm Sarah is about. Mm-hmm. I think they just put on a guard who is like, just got the short straw that day. He's got to sit there and nothing's going to happen because there's no one about. Okay. And then we just rocked up and he's like, oh... yeah, why not? He's quite old and quite nice, you know. Okay, well... maybe that was a bit of luck.
Yeah, probably, because I had to approach 4 guards having their lunch. And they were like, straight up, no.
Oh, okay.
Nope, get permission. And I was like, nah. So I took some photos right outside on the sidewalk, but that's about it.
I'll send you the photos and the videos.
What a bummer. Yeah, I know. James will be the stand-in. Photos for it. I really wanted to do it.
Yeah, but there is a flip side to this. I then tried to climb the Santa Ana volcano for 2 days. True. And the first day, what happened was that the old art school day, we got told it was closed by the hostel. We're like, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. The next day, we're like, oh yeah, it should be open. So great. I booked a tour with my friend's hostel, $20, transport there and back, and Lake Coatepec. Mm-hmm. Got there, and it was closed, the gate. And the driver was shocked. He was like, what's going on here? So he's on the call on his phone, making a few calls. He's like, yeah, it's closed. The ministry didn't send out a notice. I'm really sorry. So we're like, oh, what's plan B? He's like, I don't know. So we sat there in the minivan, like, deciding what to do. And we're like, oh, can we go to, like, maybe Tasumal? Yeah. Like, it's mine ruins. Yeah. Quite close. He's like, yeah, okay. But he said to us, quite interestingly, just don't tell... the guy who arranged the tour. Yeah. I couldn't really work out why. So we had this like little like shared secret that we couldn't tell the guy who owned the hostel that what we did. So we went to Tasumal, which is great. Mine ruins, $5 entry, pretty incredible. Probably an hour and 2 max, maybe 2 hours. Really hot day. I had a bit of food poisoning the night before. I was kind of relieved I wasn't climbing up the volcano. And then we went to a taco on the Ruta de Flores, for like an afternoon. But it's raining, so like it was okay, but people were just getting fed up with the rain. So then that happened. The next day, the volcano trail was open, so we got there. Same tour, same guy, Tony the driver, And we started hiking up as a group, and we got to the point, I don't know where this point is on your trail, because I know you did it, but there's a point where we all congregated, and the police guy went, "Nope, you can't go any further." And we're like,
Was it where the tower
mean?
was,
He goes,
that you can climb up to the tower, like a 20-minute walk?
"No, it wasn't as far as that."
Oh, it wasn't as far as that. Okay.
It just felt like an area of the trail where they just congregated on rocks.
Oh.
Basically,
okay.
the police guy said, "You can't go any further." And he said, "Oh, it's too windy. It's too dangerous." We're like, "Okay, we'll wait half an hour." Nothing happened, and everyone started going back down. But people got a bit annoyed because they all have walkie-talkies, the guides, the police. And we're like, why can't you just tell us down at the office that we're not going to go and see the volcano?
Yeah.
Why make us walk all the way up? So there were some unhappy people.
Dude.
So that was a pretty devastating occurrence. But the only saving grace on that, to finish on that little story, is I saw on TikTok a recommendation for a cafe called Crater Restaurant and Lake. Crater Restaurant, I think it's called. It's about a 5-minute drive from the gates of that national park. So I said to Tony, the driver, I said, "Oh, hey, look, we're a bit upset. Can we go to this place? I think it's got good views." He's like, yeah. I said, I'll buy you a coffee. He's like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. We can go." I was like, "Okay." Went to this place, Crater Restaurant, and you sort of go to the back of the cafe and you walk through to the front, and it's got unbelievable views of the lake, clear blue sky. Like, this was incredible. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I saw it on TikTok, and I was like, hoping it'd be good, and it was amazing.
And how
so we
windy
sat there,
was it
had
up
a coffee.
there?
No wind.
No
Clear blue
wind.
sky. A bit of wind. A bit of wind.
Okay.
Not as bad, but clear blue sky. But I bought Tony the coffee, the driver. He's like really appreciative.
Yeah.
And we just sat there, and I couldn't believe the views. It's on my thumbnail roaming on one of my videos. It's me sat on the edge of this little platform looking out.
Oh.
It's pretty incredible.
And for those that don't, I mean, if you're catching the timeline of how James and I, like the different times that we traveled, he went in November, I went in December, January, and I was literally following, like I had your account on notify me when you post, because I was like, follow bookmark every single place you talked about, wrote down everywhere you went, because I was like, tell me the name of your hostel, tell me how much you paid for it. He will vouch for that. He's like, Leah was hitting me up all the time. I'm like, where'd you stay? How'd you take the bus? I was like hanging on to his every post and every word, because I knew I was going to do pretty much the same trip in 6 weeks or so.
So how was your view at the top? Because obviously when I heard that you were doing it, I was obviously a little bit gutted. I wasn't too upset, because I think I got away with it on my trip as a whole, even in Guatemala and Mexico. I had really good weather, and I saw the active volcano in Acatenango. So I feel like only one thing I didn't get to do, and that was the Santa Ana volcano. So I wasn't too upset. I got pretty lucky. But how was the view at the top?
So I will say, everywhere you just said you had rain and wind and couldn't go, I went and had sunny days and zero wind and zero rain. I'm not even kidding. All the names that you just dropped, I'm like, oh yeah, I went there, it was beautiful. Oh, I went there, it was perfect. So I feel really bad, and I understand now how you're like, dude, just push the trip to January next time. Because, and I'm telling y'all, December 30th, 2024 was probably the most perfect weather El Salvador has ever seen, because we went up without hesitation. There was zero wind. The sky was clear. It was beautiful. We made it up and back without any trouble. The ground wasn't wet at all. We got up early enough to the Santa Ana volcano, which is called Yamatepec. That's the indigenous name for it. Without any trouble. We had the best guides. Wow. It was about $6 entrance. And I will say, I am not the fittest person on the planet. So for me, it was a bit of a struggle. But luckily, my cousin is also quite the slow hiker. His wife blew past us like all the time. She basically was trying to bridge the gap between our tour group and us. So she'd always stay, I don't know, like 20 meters ahead or so. Going up and down, what is it, like 2,000 meters, I'd say? I think the elevation. I don't think it's very high. It's like 2,000 meters, something like that.
The guide that we had ranked it 4 out of 10 for difficulty.
Exactly. 4 out of 10 out of difficulty, right? Everyone can finish this in like 3 hours, you guys. Like, I'm talking about 3 hours
easy.
round trip. It took me about four and a little bit of time, because I have knee problems, and coming down is the hardest part. So there were some
Sure.
parts, and it was so rocky in some areas that I had to like, I was basically like crawling versus like stepping down. But it just took us a little longer. Very glad the ground wasn't wet though, because it would have been a lot more dangerous. But the views at the top, absolutely worth it. We got 2 popsicles at the top to reward ourselves for making it up. And I felt so bad because when I had remembered that you didn't climb it, it's not hard, y'all. But I was just like, damn, we went up without any issues.
I know. The funniest thing I can remember going up, there was a guide and a couple coming down, and this guy was local. And one of the group stopped and said, "Hey, what's it like up there? Because we're like in amongst the cloud at this point." And he said, "Mate, I've climbed this nearly 400 times. I guarantee you're not seeing anything up there." And we're like, do we carry on? Yeah, it might change. The wind might change. But no, he was right.
Yeah. No, it was really cool. And on that journey, you can also see another volcano on the way, Izalco, a much smaller, cute volcano. It looks literally like a little hill, but it's a volcano. Yeah, it's covered in, lush greenery. But I was just like, when we turned around, I was like, wait, that's another volcano? So, land of the volcanoes, as they say.
Yeah, that's what they call the country. Yeah.
I had purchased new hiking shoes a couple months prior, and so they were definitely broken in on that hike. But
any blisters?
No, actually, and also
Good.
No knee pain nor soreness. I was like a young spring chicken the next day. I'm serious. I was like, wait, how do I not feel sore right now? I will say, in my maturing age, as I mentioned before, I did stretch a lot right before I went on the hike.
Fair.
I think it's because I didn't want any chance of like injury or soreness, so I actually woke up a little early and like did some stretching.
Yeah, fair enough. It's key. I did that on the hike in Guatemala.
Really? Oh yeah. A
crucial.
You need it.
Had to.
Yeah. So Catenango.
Yeah, I guess as a comparison, that volcano hike is 5 hours uphill constantly.
That's
no
to like
respite.
base camp, isn't it?
Yep, 3,700 meters up, I think it is.
But you're like fighting mud, aren't you? Like dragging.
Yeah, it's
through
volcanic
mud.
ash. Yeah, yeah. So Santa Ana seems pretty easy compared to that.
Santa Ana was.
But obviously, depends what you like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was a great way to spend the morning. Like I felt accomplished, and the views were beautiful, and I did not take that day for granted because when I tell you, I met so many travelers the next week who literally also couldn't climb Yamatepec Santa Ana volcano because of wind as well. So I kept hearing for like
that's
another
what got us
week.
is the wind. Yeah.
For another week after I climbed it, people were like, "No, I couldn't go. It was closed. It was closed. There was an earthquake while I was there in the middle of January. Some of the rocks fell, closed the volcano again." And I was like, dude, I got lucky. Really lucky.
Yeah. Very lucky. I met people who were biking through on motorbikes and stuff, and they went back to try and do the whole hike again and got told no. So not only did they come the time I met them and then try for 2 days, they went elsewhere to somewhere else in El Salvador, drove back to Santa Ana to try and do the hike again and got told no.
Oh,
so
my God.
My part of the year, which was like middle of November, was just not a good time to attempt
What
it.
a bummer, dude. Yeah. And then,
But our group...
Go ahead.
Our group was so despondent, but the view of the Coatepeque Lake from the Cafe Crater restaurant
made up for it.
Was a highlight and was like, okay, well, at least we got something out of this
100%,
day.
yeah. So after we did a day tour, our day tour I think was $23 US per person, but yeah, we did. I'm not including the $6 entry for the volcano, but
Same.
we did the volcano, and then we went down to the lake afterwards. But because it took us so long at the volcano, we basically only had like dinner time at the lake. After the volcano, we actually ate at a local spot on the side of the road. So when we got to the lake,
nice.
we went and found a bar at the lake. And then my cousins jumped on a jet ski, which was really cool because they were doing it as the sun was setting. I didn't want to ride a jet ski alone, so I didn't go. I was like, let me just like chill and relax here. And I got some great photos of them. But we spent maybe like an hour and a half at Lago Coatepeque. That's the lake.
Yep.
And
same as us.
Yeah.
Got some lunch.
It's super cute. Yeah, it was really cool. Actually, did you try?
It was super windy for us though.
Was it?
So we didn't sit
Yeah.
outside. We sat indoors. Yeah, too windy.
Did you try so on that side of the road lunch after the volcano? It was more of like a pre-dinner because it was so late in the day.
Mm.
That's where everyone in my group, I'm pescatarian, so I didn't have it, but they had the sopa de gallina. Did you try that while you were there? The famous soup?
No, I didn't.
You didn't.
Did I? Hang
You
on.
probably did.
Yes, I
You
did
did.
in Suchitoto in a restaurant down by the lake. I had some soup. Yeah.
I was gonna say it's like super famous. Like that's what everyone's like. Oh, it's like our national
Yes.
soup.
Yes.
I did try the broth. I did think it was delicious. I'm sure the meat was even more delicious, but I don't eat it. So.
Yeah. Actually, we didn't talk about food. Pupusas.
Ooh. Well,
What's your? I loved them. I had a lot of them. What was your opinion?
I love them, and I had many. But when I say I was sick for the first like 4 or 5 days, I was definitely sick because I think it's just like my body is getting more lactose intolerant or something.
Same.
There's another famous food besides a pupusa that I wanted to talk about too.
When I eat pupusas, I got some straight away in the hostel that I arrived into because I arrived late, so they cooked them up and reheated them.
That's so nice.
I know, but do you know what's funny? Like someone commented, I think the other day on my YouTube channel that they're apologising on behalf of all Salvadorans for those pupusas because they look so bad. I was like, well,
That is so mean.
it's mean, and I didn't know any different. So for me, they tasted all right, but actually compared to other pupusas, they were the worst. But
Oh, they were.
yeah, I didn't know at the time.
Yeah. I mean, you're fresh in the new country.
Exactly.
You know.
But
You
I did
had
love
to-
them. Yeah,
Oh, I love them, but my poor body
Yeah.
was so sick for the first 4 or 5 days. So I think it's just me becoming more lactose intolerant. And you know what's sad? It's only me with certain cheeses. It's not with
Okay.
like whole milk. It's not with ice cream. It's not with any other dairy. It's just certain soft cheeses.
that's interesting. I got sick
I
of hot dogs twice.
What other food did you love or did you try?
Mexican food had some of that because apparently it's
Yes.
the second biggest cuisine after their own food.
It is.
Yeah, and I had some
Do we know
burritos
why?
and stuff like that. No idea why.
Okay, can I tell you a little really quick story? Do you know how God, I hope you do you know how like the gangs started in El Salvador?
Oh
Like
God.
MS-13?
Well, okay. I actually asked the Civil War guy, Nelson, one of my questions was,
Yes.
does he believe that the gang warfare problems after the Civil War was born out of the Civil War? Because, yes, they came to an agreement to finish the Civil War, but both sides were not particularly happy with it. And he said,
Mhm.
yes. He said that was a direct result of the end of the Civil War going into a new type of phase.
Mhm.
So,
Was okay.
specifically not MS-13, but like the gangs, I think, probably born out of that.
Okay. Interesting. I had heard from another Latino, granted, he was not Salvadorian, he was from
Oh.
Ecuador, but he's Ecuadorian American.
Yeah.
And he had said that MS-13 started in LA, and when they started deporting people in the late 90s from
Huh.
the US, those who already started the gang culture in LA because they were trying to find community, they brought the culture back with them to the home country.
Ah,
The gang
interesting.
culture back with them. Yeah, and I was like, I didn't fact check him to be honest. I was just like, that kind of makes sense. But I was like,
Timeline
that would
makes
be
sense, yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, the reason I asked that is because I'm wondering if it was the same with Mexican food. You know, people from El Salvador and people from Mexico, there's huge communities of that here in Los Angeles.
Mm.
And you know, they were mixing and enjoying each other's culture, but I wonder if they also brought back the Mexican food to El Salvador.
Possibly. Yeah. Can't be ruled out. Yeah. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
And I literally asked people, I would ask locals, why is there so much Mexican food here? They don't know. The locals I asked, they don't know, but
It's a great option to have if you're fed up with pupusas or soups.
100%.
Yeah.
I went to quite a few delicious taco places while I was there.
Tacos, yeah. Had some
One
good ones.
particular in Santa Ana. Yeah, it was kind of a gringo taco place, but it was, oh my God, it was so good.
Oh,
Worth
interesting.
every penny.
I've got a pupuseria recommendation in Santa Ana.
Please do.
Pupuseria Claudia.
I
cooked to
we were
order.
recommended
That was a
too.
recommendation from the walking tour. So if you're looking
Okay.
for I know they probably give their friends recommendations, but it looked pretty
Mm-hmm.
good and it was amazing. Tasted great.
Okay.
Super cheap.
We went to me and my cousin and his wife. We went to Triangulito Park. Did you hear about that?
No.
There's a bunch of restaurants on the side. I thought it was food street vendors, but it's not. It's restaurants. And there, in one of the restaurants there, we had the cheapest pupusas that we saw in the country for 60 cents.
Oh wow.
So two-thirds of a US dollar.
Yeah.
So that would be my recommendation is to go
Mm.
get the most inexpensive pupusas in the country for 60 cents near Triangulito Park in Santa Ana.
Okay. Another recommendation for El Salvador is Poro Campero.
Yes.
They love that stuff over there. Fried chicken. I
Did
had
you
that a few
go?
times. Oh yeah, I went there
You
quite a few
did.
times. Yeah. Fried chicken for lunch. Happy
Everywhere. I saw
days.
the
Yeah.
billboards everywhere.
Yeah. Slightly expensive for local cuisine, but not
How
for Western.
much
Not for
would you
Western
say?
prices.
Mm.
Was it $8.50 for like a big plate of fried chicken and chips and stuff?
To feed a family or one person?
No, one person.
I have sticker shock when you said that. I was like, no way. 850?
$8.50 US. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you shocked
That
because
is
it's
quite
expensive? Or
expensive for well
yeah,
for South yeah, for
yeah,
local.
yeah, yeah. I was paying on card.
Yeah. I was like, wow, I think you can get meals for, full meal. I mean, pupusas, you can get them for like
Dollar. Yeah, yeah,
a dollar 50.
yeah.
Two or three of those, meal under $5, like a complete meal that will fill you up. So 850 is quite
So Santa
ooh.
Ana for me was like breakfast at the hostel, Podo Compero for
Mm,
lunch, cheap pupusas
I love that.
in dinner because pupusas don't come out at lunch apparently as a rule.
Right. They
Yeah,
don't.
so
And
you need to come up with something different.
we figured out the hard way in Suchitoto because we went to a pupuseria at like 4:45, not realizing that they didn't really open till 5:30. So
Mm.
we were like standing around and watching them like set the restaurant up,
Yeah,
and we didn't realize that they weren't open yet. They didn't say that because they were like still taking our orders, setting up the table. And then after 15 minutes, we're like, I don't think they were open, you guys. I think we're first in line here. So pupusas in El Salvador, definitely a nighttime and a dinner thing
yes.
for
Also
sure.
breakfast. Apparently it's loud at breakfast as well.
Okay, so just not at the middle of the day.
Not lunch.
Go
Yeah.
find something else for lunch because you can't eat a pupusa.
Yeah. Did you also
You
find the
know what
locals love pizza?
they
They're
do?
always carrying pizza boxes about,
They
I found.
do. The,
Mm.
the the littles you see the Little Caesars in the square in Santa Ana, everyone was always carrying boxes from
Yes,
there.
those boxes, yeah.
Ruta de los Flores. I mean, this
Yes.
can actually is kind of a good segue because apparently, for as small as El Salvador is, there's different cuisines in different parts of the country.
Oh, okay.
So things that were famous in my first stop in Ruta de las Flores. So a lot of people will road trip it and they'll
Yeah.
do it in a day. What I did, which I was actually really proud of, and I could have probably done it for longer if I did, I actually stayed for like 2 to 3 nights in a few different cities on Ruta de las Flores.
So which ones did you stay at?
So the first stop I stayed at was Ataco, which
Oh,
is
yeah. That's where I
also
went for
known as
afternoon.
like Concepcion. Yep,
Yep.
exactly. So when you were like, oh, it was really shit and rainy there, and I was like, I had stunning weather in Ataco.
And
That's why
roadworks
I
as
felt
well.
bad,
Oh,
James. I know I was like, damn, I had really good weather for like the 2.5 days that I was there.
no, just rain and really good coffee, actually. Found loads of coffee
Yes,
options in there, taco, and we walked around the
100%.
streets. It's quite nice.
100%. Okay, so the best coffee, and I put this in our notes that I sent to James prior to us turning on record for this episode, everyone. The best cup of drip coffee I've ever had in my life, I had in a taco at a
Wow.
cafe that I had breakfast at. It's called El Café de Artista. It was literally just a drip coffee.
Okay.
And I was like, why did they
Drip.
added nothing? Yes,
Yeah.
they added nothing to it. And I was like, why is this so good?
There's
So
loads
I
of
remember
options there,
that.
though, isn't there, in the town? I saw lots
100%.
of
Did you go to
backpackers sitting
Axul
outside.
while you were there?
No.
It's very trendy and it
Okay.
was really, really good. But it's definitely like, I don't want to say like, I don't know. It's just like the popular place to go in town. But they
Okay.
have a massive menu and it's a coffee shop, roastery, and a restaurant. But they were
Okay.
really cool. Yeah.
We found a
Tons of options for a tiny town.
we found a lunch place. I can't pronounce it very well though, so I'm gonna butcher this big time.
Tell me.
Um, begins with X, so I don't even know where to start with this.
Uh,
Hockey Calco restaurant. One thing I found when we arrived in our taco is we got on our minibus, got off it, and we got hounded by restaurant owners to go for lunch.
I ended up going to Pupuseria Linda, which is very popular. And by this point, I was not getting sick from the pupusas
Got it.
anymore. So I did not get sick from these ones, but you didn't stay overnight. So one of the coolest things in a taco is their night market near the square.
Ah,
I know you would have loved it because it's
yeah.
like it's this just cute small town, so much culture. And from what I read online after I went, which I'm glad I didn't look at all this stuff online before I went, but I had heard good things. It looked like there was enough to do and see for 48 hours, even if it was a chill 48 hours there.
Mm.
There was a cute little night market. There's some cascadas, aka waterfalls nearby, tons of coffee places, tons of cafes. There's a mirador, which I went up to. But a lot of people were saying it was like their favorite part of Ruta de las Flores. And I
Yes,
didn't know this before I went there. So thank God, I was like, this is so cool that I went without even like being influenced, if that makes sense.
got it. Yeah, I heard before my trip that this might be the best place on that route. But
Really?
don't forget, I had plans to go to this road, but because I had to stay
Hmm.
extra in Santa Ana, I didn't really have time. And this was
Okay.
only a result of the failed attempt to go up the volcano on day one.
Oh, yeah.
So we
Yeah.
had to have a plan B. So it wasn't
Of
really in the
course.
plans. But it's fine. We got an
No, I'm glad
afternoon
you
there.
got to
Yeah.
experience. Yeah,
A good
absolutely.
street
Better than
art as
not
well.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Better than not going. So we did a day of the thermales, the Santa Teresa thermales in Santa Ana, the hot springs. It
Yeah.
was probably the most expensive day
Oh,
because we didn't realize it wasn't really natural hot springs. They're kind of natural, but they build around it. We paid like $10 for entry, $30 for massages, $20 for a plate of food, and it
wow.
was a resort. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, like maybe not something I would do every day, but it was great. But that was another thing that a lot of people from Ataco go do is the Santa Teresa Termales, but we went from Santa Ana instead.
Hmm.
Um, so when I went to Ataco, I just basically one of our Uber drivers, I was like, hey, can I just like pay you not off the books, but I was like, can I pay you off of Uber and give you the money directly where I knew all $40 was going to him versus to Uber,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? And he drove me. Um, the hour to a taco. I booked at a beautiful hotel slash hostel called Las Casitas, where a Salvadorian American, he owns the hostel in the US. In during the season, he's a CPA. In the off season, in the US, he comes to El Salvador and runs his hotel with his family. And he
Wow. Dream
also
life.
I know, he roasts coffee. So I bought two
Oh,
bags from him, pound bags, $5, whole beans, straight from the source from a local like roaster. I'm like, dude, I can't get any better than this. Come on now.
yeah.
I should
It's
have bought
unreal.
more bags,
Yeah. Because I was planning
to
to go
be
to El
honest.
Carmen Estate. That's another place on my
Right.
list, but I didn't have time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I went and I will say, I mean, I didn't go.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I didn't go because there was some conflicting sentiment about the place.
Oh, interesting.
So I know some people were saying it was a little bit of a ripoff. So I didn't go.
They are a nightmare
Um,
to book with. I'm going to put this out there. I tried to book
okay.
in advance, and they wanted like a bank transfer to book my tour. I'm like, can't just put my name down and turn up on the day. Like, no, we have to pay some money up front.
What
Nah.
kind of business is that?
Yeah,
Come
it's a
on
bit strange.
now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm glad I went with my gut and didn't go because it's like, listen, I can go to the 900 cafes in this town
Yeah.
or do a coffee tour here when I knew I was going to do a coffee tour in the next town on Ruta de los Flores. That's why I was like, I don't need to do two coffee tours.
Yeah.
Like,
Sure.
let me
Same.
just support all the local cafes here,
Yeah.
right? And after hearing that conflicting information, I was like, I don't know if I want to deal with that because I had such limited time, right?
Sure.
I was like, I don't know if I want to mess around with that because one of the days in a taco, I ended up going to Cafe Albania, which is basically like this theme
Oh,
park.
yeah. Theme park, isn't it? Yeah. Saw this on
It's a
TikTok.
theme park. Yes, and it has the other rainbow slide
Yes.
in El Salvador.
Yeah.
And
Looks good
I
fun.
honestly, yeah, honestly, I knew this is how I think of traveling sometimes. I'm like, do it once, pay for it, and you never have to go again.
Mm.
Right? Like, and it's not like I do things for the gram or whatever that is. It's just that like, oh, I want to experience it, but I don't have to go more than once if I come back to this country, right?
True.
So I paid the $40 for the unlimited bracelet that gets you one ride on every single ride. which I didn't even do. So I did like the biking in the sky, the
Yeah.
mazes, the surfboarding. I did the rainbow slide. And I think for locals, that price is quite high
Yeah.
because whenever I told anyone about it, they were like, "Oh, you paid that?" And I was like, "Yeah, but it was like a one-time thing for me. Like if I come back here, I won't go to Cafe Albania again." But I thought it was kind of a fun way to spend half of a day.
Mm. Yeah. Again, that's loosely on my list. Not really though.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
probably not a priority for a lot of people,
Nah.
but I thought it was like I was like, "Oh, this is kind of cool." Like a super fast slide, like biking in the air, surfing in the I was like, it's just kind of quirky, right?
Mm. Mm.
So, took the local bus. It was literally like a 12-minute ride from
Oh wow.
Ataco, and it was
Cool.
less than $1. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All buses are a
But
dollar. It's
oh, I
crazy.
know. And there's, the same few buses that run all up and down Ruta de las Flores. So, after my 2 nights in Ataco, which I loved, went to the night market, went to Cafe Albania, went up to the viewpoint, went to support all the local cafes and eat their food and drink their coffee. I headed on down to, and I still cannot pronounce this name for the life of me, Huaya?
Yeah.
Huayua. Huayua.
Because of Jade, isn't it? So
It's
I know.
Huayua.
Who are you? Okay.
Huayua,
Yeah.
which is another, it's okay. Massive in terms of like small towns. It's much bigger than Ataco, but it is a pretty big town on Ruta de las Flores. And a big center point. Like it's pretty much in the middle of the route.
Mm.
I ended up spending 3 nights here in a beautiful hostel that overlooked the city. You could also see there's quite a few rooftops in this small town, but you can also see the 5 volcano points from all of
Oh
the
wow.
rooftops, which is
Oh,
really sick. Yeah,
that is incredible.
really sick.
Yeah.
And I timed this out perfectly because I did do a little bit of research on Huayo before I went, and they have a really cool weekend food market.
Yes. Is that at night or is it during the day?
It's during the day, actually. It's the
Yeah, I
opposite
think
of a
someone
night
told me about this.
market.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was in a taco from Thursday to Saturday, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll leave like midday Saturday. It was literally like 30 minutes to Huayua on the bus, nothing. And so I got to Huayua midday Saturday, still had tons of time to enjoy the market, the weekend market. And I think the big draw of it is that they bring seafood from the coast. So there's lots of like platos de camarones, like
Mhm.
pescado. They have all these seafood dishes that really aren't native to the area.
Wow. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was on my list, that place.
it was a lot of
There's a
fun.
waterfall hike near there as well, isn't there?
There is very popular Siete Cascadas.
Yeah.
I unfortunately did not do it.
That was closed when I was there. In Santa Ana.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I feel so bad. I feel like it was all wasted on me when I had good weather and you could have gone just because I have some bum knees, everybody. And like, to be honest, when I was reading Google reviews, I was really scared because they kept saying, if you have any
Mm.
injuries, any past injuries, if you don't think you can complete this hike, do not do it because you will be stuck and stranded in the middle of nowhere. They're gonna have to like medevac you out of the area, even with guides. So I was like, yo, I'm not taking any chances.
I think there's like seven waterfalls, but the first four are pretty easy, but then it does go up and around the back of other waterfalls or
Right.
whatever, and I think it can get a bit hairy, apparently.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I unfortunately opted out just until I'm like, okay, let me be a little bit more confident. And then it ends up in these like cool, kind of like pool, more of like man-made pools. They're called Los Choros. And they're kind of like bathing pools. So
Mm.
you kind of get two in one sites, if you will, when you
Hmm.
do the hike. And I know
Wow.
everyone around me was doing it. I didn't do it while I was there. I went on a coffee tour to Beneficio San Pedro instead, which is like one of the main suppliers of coffee in the country, one of the biggest and most famous suppliers of coffee in the country. So that's
Oh,
what I did with my day while everyone was at the waterfalls having a good time hiking. But good thing I love coffee.
I know, yeah. I think I didn't mind because I saw the waterfall in Suchitoto on the Civil War tour. That was the last thing.
Yes,
So
of
I
course,
dipped in
of
and chilled
course.
out there. Maybe not as good, but I saw my waterfall fix.
Hey,
That's fine.
I'll take any waterfall. I know. And then actually one of the full days that I didn't have much to do, or no, I was going to go on a coffee tour. It was all messed up. They pushed it back an entire day. So then I had a free day and I went to one of the other cities just on a day trip on Ruta de las Flores. It's called Nahuizalco.
Oh,
And
okay.
so It was literally like another 20 minutes south of Huayua by
Hmm.
bus, the 249, the famous
Classic.
249 for $1,
Yeah.
right? And the cutest little town, zero tourists.
Hmm.
And I just, I walked around. I bought a cute little purse there, supporting, giving my money to locals. I got some dessert, I got a drink, and just spent a couple hours there just
Mm.
hanging out. But someone was like, one of the locals was like, you should go see it. It's nice to just like walk around. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I was like, well, what
Oh,
else, what better
dream
thing to
road
do
this
than
is.
see? I know.
Yeah.
And so I saw four cities, including Apaneca, where Cafe Albania is. Four cities over almost 5.5 days, Ruta de las Flores, and I did it the way I love to travel, by slow traveling versus packing it all into one day.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't too upset. I'll just go back and do that. But if I went
Yeah.
back to El Salvador, that'd be the main thing to do for me.
Yes.
And a volcano, of
100%.
course.
I think you would
Um,
have loved staying in the small
yeah.
towns like I did. It was just so chill.
Like do it
Yeah.
slowly, just like dot
Hmm.
around. Maybe just get a car or a bike and just take your time. Yeah, that'd be pretty
Yeah.
cool.
100%. It was super easy to get between all of the cute little towns too. They all have
Yeah.
like a different personality. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay, so after 5 beautiful days along Ruta de los Flores, I did go back to San Salvador for one night. I checked myself into a Marriott because, not gonna lie, y'all, as much as I love hostels, I was just like, let me just get a night of luxury because I feel like I've been not necessarily like slumming it, but I was like in hostels with so many other people and barely
Mm.
any hot water. I also had found out about this camping place in the south of El Salvador. It was called Espiritu de la Montaña, and it was on top of an old volcano called Conchagua. And there's a tour company that can take you up there, but you do have to you have to travel 5 hours to the south, La Union, basically.
Wow.
And then La Union is the pickup point, and then you go an hour up the mountain, which it really isn't steep. It's like 1,000 meters.
Hmm.
So La Union is also where you take the ferry to go to Nicaragua. So all the
Oh.
backpackers and travelers who are transiting between the countries over land go to La Union. So I was like, you know what? Let me take a night in San Salvador, reset, think of what I need. Now, I'm not a camper. James, you're the opposite of me.
Yeah.
So when I heard camping, and I'm talking to the tour group on WhatsApp in Spanish, and they tell you everything you need, right? But they don't tell you, they leave out a lot of stuff, which is like, do they do this in the Philippines? Classic Southeast Asian, classic Latin American. They don't give you all the information. So I'm like, oh my God, camping. I'm not a camper, but I can rent a tent. Okay, great. But oh my God, I'm going to need a sleeping bag and maybe like some type of something to lay on. And I get cold easily. I was like, oh, it's going to be freezing up there. I didn't know how high the elevation was. I was like, I was like, it's going to be freezing. I didn't bring any cold weather clothing.
Hmm.
So in El Salvador or San Salvador, I was like, oh, I think I need to buy like a tarp type sheet to lay on, and I think I need to buy an extra rain jacket in case it starts like getting super windy and freezing. And so I take the 5 hour bus to La Union, super easy. It's like $6. Get there right on time for the pickup. Super cool. This company picks you up in this cool Jurassic Park like adventure Jeep, and you're like cobblestone driving up to the Espiritu de la Montaña, up to the top of the volcano. So that's the other thing, is like you don't even have to hike this thing. You can get driven up in a
Wow.
Jeep.
This sounds luxury.
No, that's what I'm saying. I was like, this is lux. You can hike. Most people literally do not hike because it takes like an hour to get up in the car. And it's
Mm.
actually really fun. And you have beautiful views of like the river and the bay and Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador. And that is the allure of camping at this place for a night, is that when you wake up with the sun, you look over the bay and you see three countries: Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador. So I was like, I gotta do this. This is super cool. And so the trip is only supposed to be for a night. So you go up there late afternoon. I was surprised. They actually gave us a tour of the campgrounds, which
Oh.
was really nice because I guess that's included in what you pay for. And we had the most amazing guide. His name is Fidel, and he actually works. This was cool. He works on cruise ships in his like high season, but in the
Hmm.
off season, he's a tour guide in El Salvador, his home country. But he also works with a lot of Filipinos. So we like connected, and his English was fantastic. He took my little DJI Osmo Pocket 2, and he, took it around. So we'll probably add some footage in here because he's like, please let me know whenever your podcast comes out with the El Salvador episode. I was like, I will. But there's a cool museum at the top of these campgrounds that talk about the Lenca people, which are an indigenous people that, a lot of the government doesn't really talk about. Unfortunately, a lot of the culture is lost. So they were trying to preserve it in this
Hmm.
museum. And just Espiritu de la Montaña, it was beautiful. Like you go up there, you rent tents, you rent the mattress pad, and you can bring whatever you want to sleep on top of that. They tell you, oh, yeah, there's bathrooms at the top and there's like a small store at the top, right? So I bring an emergency blanket from home in California, like the marathon blankets, because I'm like, what if I need it? I tell you, I bought stuff from literally the North Face in San Salvador because I was like, what if I need
Oh,
it? I went to Super Selecto, which is the grocery store
yeah.
there. I bought dinner, I bought breakfast because they're like, "Oh, you're camping. You're only going to have this small store." When I tell you at the top, there is a full-on restaurant and a store that has everything you could ever need and bathrooms with toilet paper when I literally brought rolls of toilet paper because I thought they weren't going to have
Listen,
anything.
camping.
This is not camping. It is luxury. And you can rent the tent and the mattress pad from them. And I just used the emergency blanket. It wasn't even that cold. It's 1,000 meters up, you guys. But like being from Southern California, I'm like, I'm freezing. You being in Vancouver, like this is a light breeze for you. It was just so funny because I was incredibly, incredibly over prepared.
Right.
And
How much was the experience?
the experience, I'd say total, because I did rent the tent. I did
Yeah.
rent, everyone rents the tent. You don't have to, but like it gets really, really windy at night. You rent the mattress pad, the cost to go up and be on the Jeep and the entry. So all in all, it was about a little under 40 US dollars for the night.
Oh, cheap.
So worth it. And then you wake up, it's super cool. You wake
I
up
think
with
I
the
saw your
sun at like
photos.
5:15. Yes,
Yeah.
I'll send you some so you can insert it if you want.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely worth it, absolutely stunning. I don't think the expense was too high. And you guys, you don't even have to hike it. You don't have to bring your own toilet paper like I do. You don't even have to bring food. They have all this stuff for you at the top. They just don't tell you that they do.
Wow. Yeah, I think I saw that as well on TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
honestly a really cool experience, but like it's not strenuous. That's the
No,
great part about it, I
it sounds
guess. But
amazing.
if
I'm
you're
there. Add that to my
yeah,
list. Yeah, yeah.
if you're looking for adventure, maybe not, but views and just
Oh, just
calm,
views.
that's what it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'll
What
add
an
that to my list when I
experience.
go back. Okay,
Yeah, so I think
so
those are the two places, Ruta de las Flores, like extended Ruta de las Flores and Espiritu de la Montaña. I think those were the two new places that I did that you didn't get to due to time.
yes, I think that is
Hmm.
correct. I've done a little bit
Hmm.
of obviously a taco, but I don't really even count that much.
Ah,
Um,
you did. Let's count it.
okay, cool. But overall, I thought as a country, like to summarize, I thought it was incredibly safe, good for the
Yeah.
budget, easy to go on local transport, and I felt I don't know how to describe this. I felt like all the tours and activities are genuine, and what I mean by that is you're not getting ripped off. I think it is just that price. They're not trying to get more out of you. They haven't really learned that yet because they're quite new to accepting tourists. Whereas,
Hmm.
like, if you go to Guatemala, they know the game. They try and get you, upsell and all that sort of stuff, right? So, I think it's a very genuine country for travel and tourism in terms of the experience, and I would even say it's like an easy country to travel to, and it's now safe.
100%. I 100% agree with you. And the one thing with everything you just said, the one thing I will add was I was talking to someone in the hostel in Huayua, like a French girl,
Yeah.
and she was like, I really love El Salvador because it's not like Guatemala yet. And I'm like,
Mm.
keep in mind, it's 2025. The last time I was in Guatemala was 2018.
Okay.
So I was like, what's Guatemala like? What do you mean? I haven't been there in a while. And she's like, well, Guatemala is like, there's no negotiating. The price is the price. So if you want to get across town and for a local in a tuk-tuk or something similar, it costs a local $2. they're going to charge you 10. And it's like a mafia where they all agree to charge the same price and there's zero negotiating. And immediately, what country did I think of that does that? Mexico.
Oh,
Mexico overrun by tourists in most parts, especially the coast. And I'm like, oh my God, just made all these connections in that moment. I'm like, if Guatemala is turning into Mexico because tourism is so advanced now, or
yeah.
it's been there for a long time, I'm like, that's scary. But in El Salvador, there's still negotiation. There's still, I mean, some negotiation. There's still, super affordable to travel. There's
Mm.
no extortion of foreigners yet.
Yet.
But I was just like, that's kind of crazy because I didn't know Guatemala was heading that way.
Yeah, like a real life example, very quickly before we finish, is Atislan Lake in Guatemala
Mm-hmm.
versus let's do the lake Suchilan in Suchitoto. You said,
Mm-hmm.
and it's true because I went down there. The boat in El Salvador in Suchitoto, it goes when it's full and it's one price,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
on Lake Atislan, there's a strip where you walk, which is really nice. They're the tourist boats where you get ripped off, private boats. But if you go around the other way to the other side of the lake, there's the public boat, which is not a rip-off boat, but it's not obvious, right? You can get duped if you're
Ooh.
not too switched on. So I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a difference in the countries there where you just need to be aware that Guatemala is more like the game. You need to make sure, do your research, ask like backpackers, where's the actual boat or whatever you're trying to do.
That's kind of wild.
Yeah.
That kind of blew my mind when I heard that. I was surprised, but now people are feeling much safer the past few years and more comfortable traveling El Salvador. And this is the whole reason. This goes back to the first question James and I were going to ask each other when we started the podcast. Why did we pick El Salvador?
Yeah,
Right?
it's been off limits for decades,
Mm-hmm.
and I've heard it's safe. So I thought, well, let's go and see what it's like. A part of me feels like in this day and age, some countries, or maybe all actually, you never know how good it is until it ends. So I'm like, I want to go
Mm.
now just in case something bad happens. And that's not just El Salvador, that's like most countries, like
Yep.
US is a great example at the minute. We didn't just go into that.
Yeah,
But I'm like,
unfortunately.
let's just us like take advantage now and just go now where it's like seems to be up and coming. And New York Times named it in the top 40 places last year.
Yes.
So, and I read an article when I arrived in San Salvador in the paper that said that it's got a mass amount of tourists coming this year. So I think
Yep.
it's good.
Yep. And that's
Um,
the same thing too. Like I knew Bukele came in, started another presidency, March 2023. People felt safer. People were finally wanting to travel back. And I
yeah,
was like, December 2024 has only been a year and a half. I was like, let me get there before it becomes a Cancun,
and also that,
which is a,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Let me get there before tourism overruns it. Because, like, a small example, I went to Bali in 2022. That's like 15 years past its prime.
yes,
Do you know what I'm
100%,
saying?
yeah,
I went there with it being so touristy and all the yoga and entrepreneurs and like just the people like where are the locals? There's none in sight. I mean, I'm
yeah,
sure Canggu is the wrong place to be for that, but it just felt like it wasn't their country anymore. And
yeah,
that's why I wanted to get to El Salvador before that happens because
yeah,
I feel like sometimes Mexico is like that too.
yeah,
I'm probably in the wrong places, but I'm like, I'm so happy that I went and I spent, almost 3 weeks there. And it was like, couldn't have asked for more, to be honest.
yeah. 3 weeks is a good time. That's an amazing time to spend in that country. I was half that, so well, 13 days, 13 nights, yeah.
Your
And I,
trip through Central America, if you like looking back on it now that you're way past it, would you have structured it differently?
no, I think is actually almost perfect for the timings and where I went. Mate,
Okay.
I would have extended the trip. I know everyone would say
Oh,
that,
yeah.
but I would have probably added an extra 2 or 3 days because I didn't have enough time
Mm-hmm.
in Tikal in Guatemala. I had one day
Oh,
there, but I
yeah.
wanted to kind of chill out, but that's too fast paced. Had to fly. So I
Yeah.
think I would have extended the trip by a few more days. I know people say that, but that's because I got halted by the rain in Santa Ana.
I
But I
know.
prioritized El Salvador, which is the right thing to do.
Okay. There
Yeah.
you go. All
Yeah.
right. So, yeah, now next time you just got to do a standalone trip to El Salvador.
Yes. That's next.
Yep. All right, James, you know how it is on Ticket to Anywhere podcast. We have a T2A, Q2A, And you are a victim today.
Okay.
So, first question, do you have a ritual or routine when you land in a new place or a new city?
Oh God. Ritual routine. Book a walking tour.
Oh, I love that. Hot tip for anyone listening. What is your must-have flight essential or traveling essential?
It's got to be noise cancelling headphones.
Okay, last question. What are you besides a traveler and a podcaster? Who's James Hammond?
I'm a bit of a previous life music graduate, so I'm a bit of a attempted musician, but failed really. But yeah, that's my degree. So
Oh,
I still have my roots. So that's kind of football and music, but football was more deep rooted from early childhood. But like adult James is probably music. Yeah,
that's super
love
cool. Okay,
get on
so
the
next
guitar.
trip I fully expect to see, yeah, with a guitar
Yeah,
out in the plaza.
yes, that has been me in the past, plenty of times. I know it's cringe when people go to hostels like, "Oh, there's a guy on a guitar." Yeah, that's me.
People love it.
I know.
They say they don't, but they do. Wow, this was a great, like, what, 2 hour long conversation?
Yeah, I think we've deep dived El Salvador
Oh,
on real
100%.
experiences a lot. Yeah, so
Yes, yes. And
this will
like two different
complement
experiences
my
too.
series as well.
Base
Yeah,
Basically good weather and bad weather. Those are the two
yeah,
experiences.
in a
I'm
matter of a
sorry.
month difference. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh
No, great
man.
country, worth visiting, and get there now. I'd say
Yeah,
before
definitely.
too much construction or too many tourists go there.
Mm-hmm.
Time is
And then
now.
the rain and before, I mean, you could probably book it from Los Angeles. Those
Yes,
listening,
or San
Los
Fran.
Angeles, 5 hour flight,
Yeah,
everyone. Yeah, James flew from San Francisco. I flew from LAX to San Salvador, 5 hours with Avianca.
Avianca. It's the way to go. Yeah,
Yep,
and the airport is
absolutely.
great when you land. I think it's quite new, so
Yeah,
it's a nice
it was
experience when you
nice.
land. Got to go back.
Awesome. Thanks, James.
Thanks so much, Leah. It's been a great chat. Loved it.
To find even more travel tips on budgeting, destinations, and our favorite items, sign up for our monthly newsletter, The Check-In, linked in the show notes or description.